Hello, everybody. James here, and it's Ask Dutch Anything. It is episode
Dutch
6.
here.
Yeah, he is.
Dutch here. Don't confuse me with James.
No. If you can't, it's the mustache is a dead giveaway.
Okay, let's go.
That was it. That was my intro.
Was it?
Yeah, I'm leaving it in now. Right, okay. So we'll do the quick version of the intro, and then there we go. Facebook, WSI Network, join us there, especially on Instagram as well. We're on Instagram. My YouTube channel's James Romero YouTube channel. I update infrequently at the moment. And then there's the Stevie Richards Show and an upcoming channel from me as well. And more importantly, Dutch's books. You can get signed books from Dutch. You can get signed WCW trading cards. You can get signed hats, University of Dutch as well, or by emailing dirtydutchmantell with 2 L's at gmail.com. Request there and you will get a price. And the most important email for this show, at least, is questions for Dutch. Ask Dutch Anything is exactly that. If you want to ask Dutch anything, make sure the question is very, very good, and it might end up on a future episode of Ask Dutch Anything. But until, don't say until then, it's not the outro. Right, you ready for the
first? They could also get University of Dutch diplomas.
Oh, I forgot about the diplomas.
And it looks very good on the wall. Didn't I send you one, James?
Yeah, you sent it to my old address. I forgot to give you my new one.
Okay.
No.
But you didn't get it?
Someone got it.
I wonder what they did with it.
Oh, I don't know. I honestly don't know.
I'll send you another one.
Good. I'll send you my new address. Right. Okay. First question is from Caitlin in Australia. Hey, Dutch and James, I hope you guys are doing well and not stuck watching another George Goulas classic, if that's what we're calling it. Speaking of which, it had me thinking about second-generation wrestlers. Some have been absolute legends for the business and others, let's just say, Daddy said so. And they still couldn't get over. I'd love to see how you would rank these people on this list, on the list from the best to worst. So Caitlin has given us 5 names, okay?
Yes.
And here they are. George Goulas, Ted DiBiase Jr., David Flair, Greg Garnier, and Eric Watts. How would you rank those 5 in best to worst?
Best to worst?
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go with Eric Watts as the best of that group of 5.
Really? Oh.
Eric Watts at least had Bill Watts dogging his ass and making him better, because Bill wasn't great, but Eric, I mean, he was nowhere to a finished wrestler. But out of that group, he is the best. Now, read the next 4 again.
Okay, so we've got Eric Watts at the top. George Goulas, I'm presuming he's going to be at the bottom. We've got Ted DiBiase Jr., David Flair, and Greg Garnier.
Okay. I'm going to say David Flair is the next one. Mm-hmm. No, I'm gonna put Garnier in there. Mm-hmm. He'll be the next one. He wasn't too good, but at least I think he kind of understood what he needed to do. He just didn't look the part. Was bland on interviews, plain looking. But he somehow, his daddy stuck him in there and wanted the fans to accept him as that he was worthy of the position that he held, which he wasn't. The next one, read the last 2, is
Ted DiBiase Jr. and David Flair.
I'm going to put David Flair. David Flair and Garnier almost tied up. I mean, David Flair, the only thing that was interesting about David was that he had the name Flair. And he did a disservice to that name. Because when you hear Ric Flair and his son, well, you expect a lot more than what he was capable of giving. I don't think he even wanted to be a wrestler to start off with. I think he wanted to be something like a chef or something. And is he a policeman now or no?
He was a park ranger for a while, I believe.
A park ranger, yeah. Which actually suits him a lot better.
Yeah, chasing Boo Boo and Yogi Bear.
Than being a being a wrestler. And what was the other one?
Ted DiBiase Jr., which I don't think you crossed paths with him in WWE. I've got a feeling
I did.
You did?
I did.
Not impressive then.
Not really. He was okay, but I hate to put him right next to the number. He's number 4. I hate to put him next to number 5, and we know who that's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
But he just, I mean, to be the son of Ted DiBiase and not advance any farther than what he did. Of course, you know he's being charged now, isn't he? By the state of Mississippi, by the federal government.
Nothing's been heard of that for quite a while. I mean,
no,
his brother Brett's already, I think, didn't he plead guilty?
Did he go to prison? We need to investigate this.
Yeah, this has not been brought up for a long time, but yeah,
I read it about 3 months ago.
Yeah, embezzling
or maybe
funds,
longer.
He was allegedly,
yes.
charged with. Yeah,
but I think they got his brother more than they got this kid.
Yeah, I think he's called Brett. Well, that was his working name, or whatever it was. Yeah,
and number 5. He will always be number 5. He will always be the bottom of the list, bottom of the list, and that would be David Flair. Was he at the bottom?
No, George Goulas.
I mean, George Goulas. I'm thinking David Flair. George Goulas. And if anybody who disagrees with me, just look him up and watch him. And I think you'll say, yes, he's the worst that pro wrestling ever produced. And thanks to his daddy said, say sell. Daddy said sell. Nick Goulas, the worst, the worst I've ever seen. He was the worst even then that I'd ever seen.
No one surpassed him since.
Nope.
Someone is claiming that George Goulas wrestled in 2023 in a 6-man.
I heard that.
I have to see that footage.
I'll see if I can get it.
Oh.
Where did he? I read about he wrestled somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere in Tennessee. I don't know if it's like a mistake or something, because we saw footage of him like returning like the year 2000, and he was god awful. But then 2023,
terrible.
How bad must he have been in 2023 if it ends up being him? I hope it is anyway. Right, we will move on. I didn't write this guy's name down. Sorry. Anyway, it's regarding the Michael Jackson impersonator wrestler. Check out the Speedball Mike Bailey versus Santana Jackson, the Michael Jackson wrestler. Have you seen this guy?
No, I haven't seen him.
Do you?
No, I've seen the Michael Jackson guy, and this is I got Speed.
No, this is Mike Bailey. No, he's wrestling Santana Jackson. Let's look at Michael Jackson. One sec. Here we go. So this is from, I believe, GCW, is it? So that's the hashtag. Anyway, this is Michael Jackson versus, Santana Jackson versus Speedball Mike Bailey.
Oh, with Santana, there's no look for that. And Owen walked into the corner and now walking the ropes and able to take Bailey. Oh. Nope. Oh, look at this. Ducks the clothesline attempt. Float all the way through. Into the arm drag by Santana.
I just get the feeling that this is the kind of thing that would make steam come out of Jim Cornette's ears, but you quite like.
Overhead chop that time.
Well, this is when you
walking the ropes now, Santana Jackson.
You know, it's a variety show. Who said that?
Edge, Adam Copeland.
Edge, and that's exactly what you're getting right here. You're getting a variety show. Uh-oh, he hit him. Hit Michael. Here we go. He ducked it. Here we go. Oh, the spear. Down he goes.
Now, he's got a people's elbow thing going on.
He's doing the rock. And here he goes. Whoop. Hey.
And he elbowed him in the balls.
It is entertaining. I will say that.
Hang on, he's changed his jacket.
And he's dancing in the ring with the two girls. Hey, it's not bad. Wait a minute. Oh, they outside the ring. Oh, yeah. No, they're inside the ring.
Still dancing.
Not a bad stick.
Oh, and he won.
And he won. Okay.
There you go. He moonwalked his way to victory there.
Not bad. Now, I know we saw highlights of it and clips, but there's a way to produce that where it's very entertaining. And of course, you play his music, he does the dancing, and the other guy does everything for Michael Jackson. And it probably went 5 minutes, 6 minutes, because nobody got heat. How you going to get heat on Michael Jackson?
What if like an 11-year-old, what if like Macaulay Culkin challenged him?
Hey, that'd be a good one. That would be a good
get revenge after 30
but
years.
Hey, and who wrote this in?
I didn't write the guy's name. I'm sorry, I didn't get the name.
But anyway, not a bad match, and it really didn't embarrass wrestling because I have seen a lot worse than that. Because when you go see it, you know it's set up, and it's a show. You watch it for what it is, and they go on. But you enjoyed the 5 or 6 or 7 minutes that they spent in the ring.
Thing is, with once again, I say, Jim Cornette, this would make him blow a gasket, and then you're completely the opposite. You're absolutely fine with it. But then Jim would also wrestle Cowabunga the Ninja Turtle in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. So there's always room for a bit of fun for the kids and stuff at the beginning, isn't there?
Hey, the wrestlers would enjoy that. I guarantee you, if they'd have had a match on any show that I was on, you know what I'm doing? I'm going out there and I'm watching a match because I'm going to consider it's going to be entertaining and I might be able to learn something. And I guarantee you, they sold out that night. The curtain, they sold out the curtain because every talent on that show was probably out watching that match to seeing what they can do. Because they know that Michael Jackson is new to wrestling, so they want to check him out. So, hey, Michael Jackson, he might have discovered him a new little part-time job here. So a lot of those bookers, a lot of those little independent shows want to book him.
We need to get the Jackson 5 back, like wrestling Jacksons, and have 5 of them. Obviously, Michael's the leader.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And then the one who plays Jermaine is like really jealous about it and tries his own solo run. But doesn't get anywhere. Right, okay. Next one. Stephen says, good morning. Either way, I'm curious to hear Dutch talk about favourite arenas, venues, etc. to work. Obviously, the crowd plays a big part in the equation, but best places from a cleanliness, dressing rooms, amenities, local accommodations, etc. So, on that basis, where are your favourite places to work?
Well, I'm maybe a little partial to Memphis. I always like to work Memphis because it was a big arena, 11,000 people. And you would think they wouldn't work an arena that big every week, but they did. And it did very well. The fans were really good. I would say Memphis, I enjoyed working there. Louisville, Kentucky, really great fans. Not a really big arena, but probably you get 4,500 in there. But they were loud and they were into whatever you did. I would say San Juan, Puerto Rico, but it was live and it was dangerous. But those fans let you know they were there, because sometimes if you had security, you were okay. But if you didn't have security, brother, it was an adventure going to the ring and getting back from the ring, because they played baseball year round. They had great arms. They were throwing rocks and everything else. Luckily, I never got hit. Oh, I did get hit one time. I got hit with a chair. Somebody threw a chair in the ring, cut me right there. I think I had 15 stitches to get it fixed. But, I mean, if you just like the pure rush of fans in a match, the San Juan fans would give it to you. The Puerto Rican fans would give it to you. Of course, they were half drunk, and that may have had something to do with it, but they were really live.
I'll taking out the fans from the equation, then what buildings were just the nicest that you visited, or the best layout, or whatever it is? So ignore the fans, just the best buildings.
Well, a lot of the buildings were older. See, Greenville, South Carolina, older. Spartanburg, it was a really, really old building. And I tell you, some of the buildings I remember were the horrible buildings. They had one in Bowling Green. They must have used it for like a flea market on the weekends. It was horrible. And you dressed in a trailer that had been abandoned. That was your dressing room. And you go in there, and I was afraid to put my bag down because, they had cockroaches in there and rats. And I would get dressed in the car sometimes, then go by the trailer and just say, when my match, you just have to pass it to go into a door. And that wasn't my favorite arena, but it was probably my most hated arena. I hated to go to there. I hated it. But take Dallas. Sportatorium is a wreck. It's an old building. And you think Dallas, a big town, but it wasn't that big. You probably get maybe 2,500 to 3,000 people in there packed. And you think, well, you run a pretty good sized town. They must have a pretty good sized arena or semi-arena. But you would think they would run something nicer, but that became synonymous with Texas wrestling, with the Sportatorium. And I tell you, who had some nice ones was Oklahoma. Oklahoma City had a very nice arena. Tulsa did too. And you wouldn't think they would have a good one like that, but they did. Atlanta had the Civic Arena. Now, if you liked old-time architecture, this probably arena was, I don't know if it's still gone or they saved it for a historical site, but it had to be built like in the 40s. And, you could still see the architecture, and it was a good building to wrestle, but very, very old. Augusta, Georgia, very old. Columbus, Georgia wasn't too bad. Birmingham was okay. The Superdome, I marveled at how big it was. It was a stadium show.
Did it change? I went there. Did it change much between the 80s and when you went back
hurricanes hit it a couple of times. It probably didn't, but no, nice building and well maintained till Hurricanes hit it. But I was with there on Bill Watts. He did Mid-South did a big show there. And I think it seats like 70,000. And he had like 15 or 20,000 there. And guess what? It looked empty. But he was happy as hell with it. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, there's nobody here. But there was like between 15 and 20,000 people there. Of course, on that show, he has to raise the prices. So he made money. They used to work in a show in New Orleans. Oh, my God. They would throw beer bottles from the stage. Hey, wrestling looks like a very, very noble profession on TV till you get down to the nitty gritty of it. And this is what guys like me had to go through to get to this point. Some of these arenas were just flat out horrible. And I'm trying to think of, in Germany, they had some nice arenas. And in Germany, I was in the building where Hitler gave his last speech. They don't advertise that, but the people at the building told me that. And that's the one that he said that he gave a major speech in that building. And after they told me that the Nazis had been in there and Hitler had been in there, it felt a little odd to be in that building. I was expecting to see Hitler come around a corner at any point. Of course, I'd been drinking a little bit. I did. Who else? London. the O2 Arena.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful place.
Huge,
very, very nice
huge complex that as well, isn't it?
Huge. It really was. But nice building. Very nice building.
When you were in WWE for the Zeb Coulter run and you're back on the road, do all the arenas pretty much just merge together at that point?
They all did.
Yeah.
They all did. The road merges together. You know, I was thinking the other day, even working a local territory like Memphis. So you get in the car and it was 3.5 hours to Memphis. And then you leave at 3:00, get over there about 6:30, go do your interviews. Then the show starts. You leave there about 10:30, but then you got another 3.5 hour drive on the way back. That's not fun. You're tired, you're irritable. You get back about 1:30, 2:00 in the morning. And if you're going to work out, you got to get up about 9, go to the gym, come back about 11. But then you got to leave about 3, and you got to go to Louisville. And you do that day after day after day. And they wondered back in those days why wrestlers drank and why they took pills. Hell, they were trying to recover, do anything just to make the next day. Mm-hmm. And it is, and you're thinking that and they bitch about doing 3 matches a week at WWE. We was doing 7, 8, sometimes 9 in a week. Then you go to Mid-South. Mid-South had the longest road trips in the business. You would leave, everybody lived in Alexandria, Louisiana, because it was like the center of the state and it was centrally located, except for Tulsa and Oklahoma City. You do those once every 2 weeks. And you do both of them I think you did Tulsa on Saturday night, Sunday afternoon, and then Oklahoma City on Sunday night. You do 2 shows. And then another 5-hour drive back to Louisiana on a 2-lane highway. So tell me that was fun. And he wasn't the best payoff man in the world either. You know, and that's why I left. I said, damn, I felt like a truck driver. I said, hell, if I was going to do this many miles, I'd go get a job driving a truck. I'd have probably made more money.
Something I've never asked you before, because he enacted this later in WCW when he was the head booker or whatever he was. Bill Watts in the early 90s. But at the time, he forced all the wrestlers to stay back until the very last bell at the very last match. Did he do that in Mid-South as well?
No, he couldn't. Because guys were tired anyway. He didn't do that. Now, bookers, when they do that, that is displaying dominance. Or, hey, I'm higher than you. Unless you do what I say, you'll be out of a job. And listen, if you know you got 5 hours, what is the purpose of staying to the end match? Of course, they'll tell you unless something happens. Okay, what if something happens? People, they'll understand that. Then you just got to make it some kind of a deal. The next show you go in there, give them half off or let them in or do something. But don't ask your talent, who you're depending on to do all these other shows, to stay after they've already spent. It was about 2 hours from Tulsa to Oklahoma City. They've already spent 2 hours that day, and you're going to ask them to spend another 5 hours, 7 hours on the road.
Next question. Kevin says, hi, Dutch. This has got to be one of my favourite interviews ever. What do you think of it? I'm going to show you an interview now, so one second. There we go.
There was no double cross.
Mono.
Is anybody trying to intimidate anybody? I mean, out there now, is there somebody that's trying to intimidate somebody like Jerry Lawler? See, we don't have to come out here yelling and screaming or anything. Because I am the Southern Heavyweight Champion of the world, Lance Russell. You understand,
I know you got it. I know.
People think that we're crazy, but we're not crazy, man, because we don't have to intimidate anybody like Lawler and Brody are trying to do. You know what happens when Dr. Death and the Macho Man tag team? and go against Brody and Lawler? Oh, yeah. They're going to hear about it all
Schultz
over the world when Dr. D and the Macho Man do the thing on you guys, yeah.
Hey, Brody,
First thing I got to say is this, Lawler. I don't have to impress nobody because you just impressed yourself by coming out here making a complete fool out of yourself, telling everybody how you followed my career about the people that I have beat. And you know the people I have beat. And you come out here and tell people that you had to pay more money to get Bruiser Brody. That's right. Because I found out something about you, Lawler. Nobody wants to be your tag team partner because you've got a disease, boy. I've checked on you. You have a disease and they call it AIDS. I have checked on. Nobody wants that to do with you. And I got another thing to tell you. You're right. I hit Bruiser Brody. I hit him with a stick. But you know why? He caught me holding his woman in my arms. Yeah, that's what he did. And he jumped me and I taught him a lesson. Now,
that's basically it. Did you hear that?
What did he say about a woman in his arms or what?
Oh yeah, he caught. The sound's really bad on it. Okay, right.
My God!
Did you hear the bit about he's got a
AIDS.
disease?
Yes, I did.
Man, back in the day, man.
Listen, this is the way they used to do interviews. They'd say, you know, I never thought I'd see Savage as the voice of reason in an interview, but I did hear. So when they tell you got this interview, they're not like WWE. They're not like, they say, oh, well, you got to, they say, listen, you say this, you say that. They don't do that in Memphis. They say, you got to interview with Lance at the end and you're wrestling me and whoever. Well, and I guarantee you, Savage and Dr. Death, they didn't get together. David Schultz, they didn't get together and say, I'll say this and you say that. No, they went out there with completely different interviews in mind. And David did not give a crap. You know, when he left wrestling, he went into bounty hunting.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he was. Because he was, David didn't care. He did not give a crap. I saw him call a guy into a dressing room, and the guy kept standing outside the dressing room door and saying, hey, man, I beat you up or something. And David finally lured him, and this guy deserved what he got, I think. But he was not, you know, daring David to do something. David said, come here. I ain't coming over. Come on, I want to ask you something. No, I'm not going to do nothing. And he believed him. Come over there, and as soon as he got within reaching range, he snatched him in the dressing room, and he pounded him. He hit him about 3 or 4 times, and boy, when he left, his nose was bleeding, his mouth was bleeding, his eye was bleeding. And then he went out and got a cop and said, he did it. And David says, what? I hadn't seen this guy in my whole life. What are you doing, man? And the cops liked the wrestlers, and they told the guy to get out of there. And he was bleeding all over the place. It was some Mississippi town. And I'm going like, oh God, I used to ride with David. David would just ride down the road and pull out a gun, a big gun, like a 38, and just shoot roadside. Boom, boom. He was crazy. Then he wrote a book, I think, about being a bounty hunter.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just the right guy for it because David wasn't afraid. He wasn't afraid of anything. So, and somebody wrote to me, I think I saw that same thing. How were they allowed to do interviews without being fired? Because nobody told them what to say. Now, the age part, no, nobody, I don't know if he got any trouble about that or not, but I'm sure Lawler didn't appreciate it. I don't know if the station appreciated it. And the station, we could do an interview, and if they didn't like the interview, that switchboard would light up, doop, 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 and registering complaints. And sometimes we would have to, Lawler had to go out one time and apologize for saying something I forgot what he said. He was wrestling Coco Beware, and he said something that was a little bit slanted a little bit. And he went out and he had to say that, he was sorry he didn't feel that way. When you're dealing with live TV, you got a stick of dynamite in your hand. All you got to do is light it, and it could blow up. The fans could do that. They'll blow up that switchboard. Switchboard reports to the general manager of the station, and pretty soon the owner of the company he could get a telephone call Saturday. Usually wait till Monday, but if it was really pressing, right after TV, he'd get the call from the general manager of the station saying, if this happens again, you're off the station.
This was post the John Stossel slap, where Dr. D was basically, he would say he was blackballed from the industry. Now, you and I know that basically you can't be blackballed from the industry because there's always somewhere to go, pretty much. But for Dr. D, I'm not even so sure about that, because in Memphis he lasted like 2 weeks and then he went. It's like, was he just so volatile at the time he couldn't even be in Memphis?
But hey, I thought he was on drugs. I really did. I used to ride a lot with David before his last run when they recorded this, but I knew him earlier in Memphis. We were tag team partners, but I thought he was on drugs then, but he wasn't. David was just a big old country boy and didn't give a crap, and he didn't. And I like David, but I thought he was on like what they call uppers. Truck drivers take him, and so they don't go to sleep on these long miles, because he was so antsy to go, and had a lot of energy. And I went, damn, what the hell? But I would say this. Let me tell this story. I was in the ring in Louisville, Kentucky. Me and David Schultz against Bill Dundee and Rocky Johnson. One fan came to the ring and said, I'll take care of these. He's trying to tell Bill and Rocky Johnson. He got in the ring, and I swear to God, Rocky Johnson and Dundee backed up. And he walked over there, and like he's walking toward us. And I was saying, brother, please get out of here. But David, he hit that son of a gun so hard. He almost knocked him out. He was bleeding when he left. And I found out later that he went to the doctor, and he suffered an eye damage or brain damage or something.
Is this the guy who got hit with the belts?
He got hit with the belt. That's right.
Yeah.
He hit him. I've never seen anybody get hit harder than what David hit that guy. And I went, hit scared me. I went, damn, David, and then the police came, then the ushers came and pulled him out of the ring. And I was standing there saying, what the hell? And Rocky Johnson, which is The Rock's father, he thought it was funny, and Dundee thought it was funny. I guess the only one that didn't think it was funny was me. But I saw how hard he hit him. I mean, that was completely unneeded and unnecessary, but I knew how crazy David was. And I like David. But man, it was crazy.
I'm going to give, just for people who don't know, he would remain in business, Dr. D, Dave Schultz, in the business for a couple more years, but basically sort of like for IWCCCW, the Savoldies, like Indies. He went to Stampede in '86, International Wrestling in Quebec. Basically, he's reduced to Indies and smaller territories at this point. And then by '87, he's gone pretty much.
After he hit Stossel, I think it was over for him.
Mm-hmm.
Vince was down there. He was in the dressing room. If you watch that tape enough, you'll see Vince. And Stossel he asked David, was it fake? Stossel never once thinking that he would be assaulted. And David didn't punch him. David slapped him. David weighed about 270. He was about 6'3". He was a big guy, and he slapped him, and then he slapped him twice. I think one with each hand, knocked him down both times. And then by that time, the interview was over for all practical purposes, and Stossel's getting out of there, and you see Vincent. Where is that tape? We need to show that next week.
I can show it. I can show it now, just for a laugh. One sec.
To this real life brutality.
I think this is fake.
You think it's fake? What's that? Is that fake? Huh? What the hell's wrong with you? That's open hand slap, huh? You think it's fake? You come.
I see. Hit him with the other hand, knocked him down again.
Yeah, Mr. Fuji just laughing.
That's the way it went.
Yep.
And I'm glad I wasn't there. Because sometimes just being a witness to it is bad enough.
So why do you think no other bigger territories picked him up then? Is it just he was just nuts? Just too much of a liability. Why did no other territories pick up Dr. D after this?
David was unpredictable. He was.
Was he a draw, as best you know?
Well, he could have. Well, he was different. The people did think that David was legitimately could beat the crap out of most anybody. They believed that. So the guy getting close to him that night surprised me, because then David showed me he has a little bit of salesmanship to him. And he's really basically a good guy. But when he gets around fans, and I guess that's just the way he grew up, because he's people thought that he was the real deal. And if you judge by that video we just saw, he was the real deal. If he's not afraid to do it in front of a video camera, he's not afraid to do it anywhere.
Next question from Blue. Hi, Dutch. A couple of months ago, Christian Cage spoke with Chris Van Vliet. In that interview, Christian Cage mentioned that in 2005, WWE didn't give him the singles run push he thought he deserved. Chris Van Vliet said, "Was it because you were a tag team?" Christian Cage replied, "I don't know." So, my question is, do you think there is a bias towards tag team wrestlers when they want a singles run push? Do you know any wrestlers that wanted to break out of a tag team for a singles run, but the promotion didn't grant that opportunity?
Now, I said, I'm going to give him a primetime example right now. The team in WWE, Dawkins and...
Oh, Montez Ford.
Montez Ford. Well, see, a lot of people think that Montez Ford would be a good candidate to go after the world title, but that's fans talking, and they probably wouldn't like to see it, but I don't see how Montez Ford fits in with what they got now. He doesn't fit in with the Cody and the angle that's going on with him. He don't fit in there. He fits where he is right now. So if he's smart, he'll write it out, and eventually they will come to him, or maybe they won't. But is he a good candidate? Yeah, he is a good candidate. But a lot of times their booking is laid out. Sometimes I've heard that they lay it out a year in advance. They may try to, but it never holds steady, because who knows who gets hurt, who quits, whatever happens. So you really can't go that far in advance, but I'm sure that Montez Ford is on that list somewhere. I mean, we didn't start out by talking about Montez Ford, but what was the question?
No, it's tag team wrestlers when they want to be a singles.
They're more valuable as tag teams.
Yeah, do you think people get pigeonholed as a tag team wrestler, and then that sort of hurts
they do.
Upward mobility?
Do. Sometimes they do, yep.
Because you said you never really want to be a tag team wrestler. I know you tagged with Bobby Jaggers, you tagged with Frankie Lane, Honky Tonk, or Wayne Farris, and other people like that, I guess, as well. But for the most part, you didn't want to be a tag team wrestler. Was it? Was that any reason that there was
because the whole match, the whole match, if it stunk, it was me, and if it was good, it was me. So I just didn't want to. a lot of it had to do with being paid too. Because if you do a good house, if you're single, you only split it with one guy, the main event money. But if you're a tag team, you split it with 3 other guys. That cuts into your money. But anyway, I just didn't much like it. So I tried to stay a single.
Yeah, how does one break out of a tag team role into a singles role most effectively?
Well, if you can convince the promoter or the booker to split you and your partner, and of course you got to work an angle out of that. Or you don't have to, but the best thing is you could go after the world's title while you're still in the tag team and assure your partner, though, you're not going to, if you win the world title, you're not going to break with him. And then the people are going to say, wait a minute, how could he be a tag team and he's the world? Let the people will start talking, how could you do it? And, if you do win it, then you turn on your partner and said, I never said that. You'd just be a lying bastard. But I don't know.
Next question. No, don't.
A lot of ways to do it.
I know.
I'm not saying it'll draw, but I'm saying there's a lot of ways to do it.
Next question from Dan says, hello to you both. I saw you wrestle. This is you, not me. It's Homer. How do you even say this? Homer Heatley Armory in Tampa. Is that right?
Homer Hesterly.
Oh, right. It's just misspelled it. On July 5th, 1977, I think Tony Marino was on the card. Do you have any memories of Tony Marino?
God, I hated to wrestle him.
Why?
He was just... I was a young guy, and he was an older guy, and I'm an older guy now, too. But he would just buy the numbers, and... He wasn't over. Hell, I wasn't over either. I mean, it was just 2 guys out there that nobody give a crap about. And I'm trying to have this match with him, and it just wasn't going. I mean, there was nothing to get going on him. I mean, the people didn't much like him either. They didn't. I was a heel, but they were supposed to dislike me. He was a good guy, and they disliked him. So where do you go with that? So we went about 8 minutes and we got it over, and I went back to the dressing room like this. Mm-hmm. They said, well, you just out there. No, that was somebody else. I wasn't out there. Said the people were quiet. Oh no, they were taking a break when I went out there. So, but yeah, I don't remember anything much about him except he wasn't a bad worker. He was just, to me, boring. And he didn't like to do my bull crap. So, and the match, but the booker should have known that. I do a lot of different, Tennessee stuff down there, and he'd never been exposed to it. He thought it was, there's prejudice in the wrestling business, especially from the guys up north when they'd come south. They thought we did all kind of bullshit, and we did. But I told them one day, I said, guys, listen. You go to those big arenas like Madison Square Garden and the Boston Gardens in Philadelphia, you'll go there once a month, maybe, and you can bill for that. We go to Memphis and Chattanooga and Atlanta and Tampa. We go there weekly. There's a lot of difference between a month build and a 6-day build. And we got to do all this other stuff to make it entertaining. But they thought it like was degraded the business and all that. Finally, I just quit talking to him. I said, shut up. And he was one of them because he grew up on that Northern style. And the Northern style was much, much slower than the Southern style. Southern style, we just fly all over the place. Boom, de boom, de boom, de boom, de boom. But and Vince Sr. used a lot of older guys and giants. So you can imagine how fast they would move. And that was the main difference between Southern wrestling and Northern wrestling.
He died at the age of 90 back in 2021, so he was one of the most long-lived wrestlers. Is it?
Yep.
Do you remember him wearing a wig? For some reason, I've got it in my mind that he was one of the wig-wearing wrestlers.
Yeah, he was like Austin Idol. Austin Idol used to say, "What's the wig?" He would talk like that. You touch it. What's the wig? Tony Marino was like that. Touch his hair, oh my God. It's like, because if he pulled it, it would come off. So he was always protecting it, and yeah, he wore a wig, and
well, both him
and he wasn't a very friendly guy either, and he wasn't a very talkative guy, and so he was what he was. He just another wrestler, and he wasn't there long, 3 months, 4 months, and he left.
You know what his most famous character was, do you? In the 60s?
What was it?
He was the Batman with 2 T's. He dressed up like the Adam West Batman and tag teamed with Bruno Sammartino.
One time or no?
They were tag team champions. No, he was one of the big stars of the Pittsburgh promotion.
Yeah, he was a big name up north. But he came south and nobody knew him at all.
Next question. A couple more, then we'll shut down the show. James from Wakayama, Japan. Hello, Dutch and James. Many years ago, I attempted to vote Dutch Mantell for Booker of the Year for the Wrestling Observer Awards. This was around the time of the Gail Kim / Awesome Kong feud, or perhaps sometime afterwards. Unfortunately, I no longer have the correspondence saved, but Dave Meltzer directly responded and essentially told me we don't know whether Dutch was the booker or not. He didn't accept the vote. So there you go. He was turning down your votes for Booker of the Year back in TNA with the one really good thing in TNA back in the day.
Yeah. Meltzer didn't like me. He's never liked me. And I don't have nothing against him, except I don't like him either. Because he always gave off this air that he knew everything, and he was just printing stuff that he had heard, just scuttlebutt. You like that word? Scuttlebutt, rumors. So everybody told him that I booked the girls. I may not have been the total booker for everything, but I had the girls, and the girls, they were doing the highest ratings, but he didn't want to accept that, so he couldn't accept it. So I guess other than that, he just didn't want to give me any recognition at all. Which is another thing that I never knew. I know now, but that proves that he just doesn't like me. Period.
So when you were in TNA, did you consider yourself a booker or were you a writer? Should you be eligible if you were a writer? I guess. I mean, there were so many of you sort of pitching your ideas. I guess in the later years.
I didn't write anything. I just went in when I wanted the girls to do something. I just go in and talk to them. We didn't do a lot of interviews anyway. I told Kong not to do any interviews, period, because I didn't want people hearing her talk. I put a girl with her, Raisha Saeed. She didn't talk either. The only one who really talked was Gail and a few more, but I just told them what to say. And they went out to... The girls were better than the guys in doing the interviews because you didn't have to sit there and babysit them and tell them what to say. The girls know how to talk naturally because they depend on that to get by in their daily life. But by him saying, we don't know if Dutch did the girls or not, we haven't heard. So he knew, he just didn't want to do it.
Right. Okay. I'll save this question for next week, I think. I wanted to ask you one more thing that I forgot to ask you on Storytime. You did your first signing in a very long time. Who did you see?
I saw Robert Fuller.
Oh, good.
And I haven't seen him, I bet, in, 20 years probably. And he looks the same. He had the general, I think he was not Tom Parker. He was something, Colonel Parker outfit on.
He was Robert Parker.
Oh, and he's still full of crap. Funny as hell. I saw Nikita Koloff. He was there. And Danny Davis, that used to be one of the Nightmares. He was there. Ricky Santana was there. Ming was there. And I can't remember who else was there, but...
Who did you sit next to?
I sit next to Robert Fuller because we had a question and answer session at the end of it. which this is all, you could buy just, and those signings, I think you can say, well, I want to go this, and I want to go to this, and I want to go. You got an entrance fee, and then what else you want to do, and it's all figured in the ticket. So we had about 60 people there at listen to our bullshit, and they enjoyed it, and they liked it. They could talk to us, we could talk to them, and I forgot who else was there, but it was a good turnout. Guess how far from my house it was?
Go on.
10 minutes. And went down there, and I really had a good time. So, but it was the first signing I've done, I'll say, in 4 years. And
I seem to remember you did one in like New York in maybe 2022 or early 23 or something like that. I seem to remember. So it's been at least a couple of years, definitely.
Yeah, let me say 3 years.
Yeah. Well, you never know. I might drag you to a signing or something if I ever make my way to Florida at some point, which I've never been to Florida still. So
you've never been to Florida?
No, I've not really done much of the States, really.
Yeah, you'd enjoy it.
Yeah, well, be a damn sight sunnier if nothing else, I'm sure. Right, on that basis, we're going to shut down the show. Thank you, everybody.
What'd you say about Sonny?
Not Tammy.
Oh, I thought you said you could go see Sonny.
Oh, no.
Well, she's not going anywhere.
No, she'd probably be grateful of the company.
Oh, yeah, she would.
I'm sure she would. But no, I'm not seeing Sonny. No, I'll be in Florida at some point, soonish, I think, anyway. But my travel plans aside, everybody, thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you again on Wednesday, because all the days are mixing up at the moment, but we'll catch you again on Wednesday for Storytime with Dutch Mantell. Once again, questions for dutch@gmail.com to email this show with your questions. And until Wednesday, Dutch, we, the people.